Hello everybody, this is Cameron Snow with Danomics.com. So in this video, I want to show you one of the truly unique aspects of Danomics, which is our ability to integrate the decline curve analysis and forecasting capabilities with the petrophysics and geoscience capabilities. All right, so what I want to show you today is how we can calculate the recovery factor, both the current and the forecast recovery factor uh, here in Danomics. So let's get started. We're going to pick up where we left off on some of our previous videos. So, if you're not sure how to make a decline curve or you want to understand the capabilities better there, you can check out our some of our single well um, decline curve videos. If you're not familiar with the petrophysics side, we have a whole body of videos there you can go watch to understand that process better. But the situation where we left it off is we had came through and we had brought in our data. We had filtered it down to the relevant data set, which in this case is the Niobrara formation, and we were looking at wells that had, let's say, a GOR of greater than 500, been drilled after 2010, and had a lateral length of at least 5,000 feet. So we did that. We constrained our decline curve parameters, and we automatically forecasted out all our wells. And then we went through and made manual adjustments as necessary to really dial in those interpretations. Now, once we've done that, now we've got a forecast and we see, hey, this well has an EUR of 500,000 barrels and 1.3 BCF. Is that a good well or not? Is that a well that that is performing up to expectations? Now, it looks like a really good well. Came on at over 1,000 barrels a day, and here we are a couple years later, and it's still, making 130 barrels of oil a day. So it looks like a good well, but you know, is it going to deliver over its lifespan what we think it's going to, based on the forecast, and is that good for the geology that we have in this area or not? Well, this is where the unique aspect of having both reservoir characterization and reservoir forecasting in the same platform comes in handy. So what I can do is I've also got my petrophysics up here, and I've gone through and I've made my interpretation here. So I've done my calculation of my reservoir. I've done my interpretations, and I've taken this all the way down to my where I've calculated net pay and net reservoir flags here, and I've got my Niobrara formation, and I can see it looks interesting here. We have high resistivity here in the more TOC rich part of the interval. We can see that we flagged a lot of net reservoir and net pay here, and so now we understand what the oil and gas in place is in this reservoir because we've calculated all those properties. Now, the question is, how do we go from some volumetrics on the petrophysics side and a forecast on the DCA side to recovery factor? Well, traditionally, the way that I've seen people do this is the geologist, they export something over to the reservoir engineer, they export something from their system. It's all in Excel. You have to match things up, and you do that, essentially one well at a time, and that's really painful. Well, Danomics makes this a lot easier for you. So we have something called modules, and modules allow you to come in and say, all right, I want to calculate my recovery factor analysis. And you can turn that on for all of your wells. And what that does is it gives you a dialog here. And this dialog lets you come in and select your interpretation. So you can come in and you can say, hey, I've done my interpretation. I have, calculated this gridded property for in this case, I'm using the hydrocarbon pore volume for the Niobrara formation. And it pulls this grid that I've made in. And once I've done that, it automatically populates the value using the midpoint of our horizontal well. We have also, in this case, we've got a map of our formation volume factor across the Niobrara formation. So we've pulled that in as a grid as well. The software knows the lateral length of the wells. We calculate that. And then we have to assume a fracture half length. Now, this is, this is something that can be hard to estimate. Danomics does have rate transient analysis, and rate transient analysis can help you estimate fracture half length. We'll go into that capability a bit later, but we don't have pressure data for this well, so that's something we can't do on in this particular case. But it is something you could do in the platform if you're working on, let's say your own company's data. So we take these variables, we take our fracture half length, and we calculate a stimulated area, and then we turn that into a stimulated rock volume. And then we look at our current cumulative production and our EUR. So the current cum production, obviously we can just pull right from the data stream. The EUR we can, we're getting from our forecast here. And what this tells us is that we have a current recovery factor of 1.7% roughly, and a forecast recovery factor of 3.75%. And so that is just a quick example of how we can do this. Now, what we can do is we can actually look at this for any well in the project. Once we've brought this in, remember now we've got this for any well here, and we can see how this varies. Okay, so here we have a well with a very, with a lower EUR overall, but this well actually has a higher recovery factor because we're in an area of lower rock quality. So this well is outperforming its geology relative to the well that we just looked at. And we can go through and repeat this analysis on every well. It's automatically done for us. It doesn't take any extra work on our behalf to go through and do this. And then you can start drawing some interesting conclusions about this. Like, okay, maybe here in this lower rock quality with the design that we've put in on this well, we're actually going to be okay drilling fewer wells per section because each of those wells is more effectively draining it, where, maybe where we have some, thicker reservoir, we're going to have that lower, lower expected recovery factors. And in that case, we're going to maybe need to drill more wells per section. Maybe we need to have stacked laterals, that are both horizontally and vertically offset. So kind of that wine rack design. And then the next question, of course, is, how do we get this interpretation out? Well, we make that easy on you here. So we're just going to use Danomics multi-purpose flows system, and we're just going to call this DCA export. And all you have to do here is pull in your production stream. You will pull in your decline curve analysis tool, and finally we'll output these points. And so what we're going to do here is we're just going to grab our production database. We're going to grab the decline curve analysis that we've been working on, the well headers. We're going to pull in those grids, and then we can decide what we want to get out, and we are going to be looking at our per well exports here. And so all we have to do is run that. And then what's even cooler is we have the ability to map that up. So we could, turn that into a grid using our points to grid, and then we can use a grid output there. And now all we got to do here is select our coordinates, and then we are then we'll be good to go here. So this gives us a lot of tools here to come in and generate both maps and grids in here, and you can really start to do an integrated interpretation where you can, work your reservoir engineer can work out the decline curve analysis. Your geologist or petrophysicist can come in here, calculate the rock properties. Then we can sync those up using our modules features, with that grid extrapolation. And then we can take out the results and we can send that to both a points data set and to a grid. And then that will allow us to map that up in the mapping module. And you can start to come up with some really cool results when you do that, that can really help inform your development decisions based on both the subsurface and the production outcomes. All right, well, I hope that was interesting to you. If you would like to learn how you can do this with your own data, want to give it a try yourself in Danomics, just give me a shout. You can always reach me at sales@danomics.com. Thank you.